Mm-hmm.
When you write a song with someone, how does that process go? Do you start off and go, I'm just writing a song? Or do you go, oh, I want to make a song for this person? How does that work out?
That's an interesting question, bro. Honestly, it's a bit of both. So what happens when you're in, I call it the pitch side, which is this idea of pitching songs to people.
Okay.
And so sometimes what happens is a brief will come in and you hear, okay, who's an artist?
Chris Breezy.
Say Chris Brown is working on an album.
Yeah.
You said that quick too.
I've got
Who's
it.
an artist? Chris Breezy. I was like,
that's what I'm like, yeah.
So then you might hear, okay, Chris Brown's working on an album. This is the sound he's going for. This is what he's inspired by right now. And the album's coming out in November. And so this is information you might get from like fellow songwriters or your publisher or your manager, whoever it is that is your source into whatever's happening in music. So then based on that, I would then say, okay, what do I think Chris would sound good on based on what this brief is? Now it's a bit of like a educated guess because you're trying to guess what is also half in someone's mind because you're thinking, okay, what would he sing? Is that a lyric that person wouldn't say? Or is that lyric too playful? Is this kind of song something he'd say? Does he have songs like this before? Has he used this title before? Is this something that resonates with the stage in life that he's in? You know, if someone's in a relationship, maybe they don't feel like singing about heartbreak or the club or the certain thing. So you're kind of trying to tap into what that person's world is, you know? And then the other side of that is, so that's the side where a brief comes in. And then the other side of it, sometimes there's artists who I personally love, who I just are on my bucket list of, I would love to write a song for or produce a song for. So they're always in the back of my mind for, you know, that sort of thing. So you're always writing for certain people, always like, you know, kind of, I'll be like, oh man, you know, I think this would be a cool so-and-so song, you know?
Yeah.
And then you write it and you make it. And that's the reverse way where you just say, okay, this is what I think I would like to hear that person singing.
Yeah.
And then you make it. And maybe because of your artistry, they like it. Or I think one of my rules is if you like it for you as an artist, there's a high chance that another artist will love it. Because if you're willing to stand behind it in your own brand and in your own artistry, then it's already going to be to a certain level because this was a hill you were willing to die on. Whereas sometimes if you're writing from the point of view of, oh, what do I think that person would say? It's like, you're like, kind of like, oh, maybe they'd say this, but it's like, you know, so it's a little bit of both. And I've had success both ways. Yeah. And I think it just depends on the artist and depends on the season. But I love writing and producing for other people.
Yeah, no, I can definitely hear that. I mean, it's an incredible gift to have because, you know, it's one thing to write music for yourself. You know, I feel like in some ways, that's a little bit easier. I don't know how you feel. Because whatever you do, it doesn't really matter. You're not having to craft something to someone's face. So that having to be judged, and as an artist, one of the things that you have to get over is how we're going to judge it. And this is like literally, I'm making this thing. I'm going to spend so many hours, maybe weeks and months on it, and I'm going to give it to someone to judge it and take the feedback and then have to fix it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and that's fine. You go away and, you know, like I said, sometimes it becomes a great thing somewhere else. I've heard so many songs that were turned down by some other artist.
Yeah.
And then somebody else takes that song or that person performs that song and it becomes a hit.
It's true.
So you can never say, oh, you know, it's one thing or the other. So thank you so much, man. I mean, that's great. And, you know, you're so blessed and talented to have that as a gift.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, because I think sometimes as well, the temptation for artists can be, you know, I've got so many songs, I don't know what to do with them, right?
Yeah.
You can't keep them, like, you know. And so one of the challenges I think for artists is saying, okay, I've got so many songs. I probably won't use all of them.
Yeah.
How can I make the most of this? Because it's a gift at the end of the day.
Totally.
Yeah. How can I make the most of this by maybe giving it to someone who it would suit better than maybe even me? Because it's a good song, great song, but maybe I can't hit those notes.
Yeah.
And you have to be kind of humble enough to kind of say, actually, this is not my thing.
And that's the money, bro. I think it definitely requires you to lower your ego and definitely requires you to... There is something humbling and there's a humility aspect to giving someone something that maybe you crafted and saying, I think they would sound better than I would, or I think this, or I couldn't pull this off. Because I think you have to acknowledge that you each have your own unique gifts and voices and sounds and things that you contribute to the world. And sometimes you're not always going to be the vessel. And so the way that I was trained musically and the way that I see it is that we're all musical vessels. And so when you have an amazing song, the question is, what's the best vehicle for this song? What's the best vessel for this song? You know, there might be a song that it's like you write an upbeat song and you say, okay, Chris Brown, for example. But maybe for this particular song, it's Drake or whoever. It's like what's the most believable, the right vessel, the person who can pull this off the most. And
Yeah.
I think that's something to always consider in writing for people, which is something that I love as well.